Applewood. We are very happy to have you all here today. This is going to be a great session for those of you who may not have been to a retirement community before, or this may be your first time, want to learn a little bit more information, and also the big question, financials. So we have three panelists here today. We have some questions that we'll ask to get the day going, and then any of you that have questions, feel free to raise your hands. We'll get the microphone over to you and you can ask. But we'll start with our panelists introducing themselves.
Hello, my name is Carly Kavanaugh. I'm the CFO here. Can you hear me? All right. CFO, Chief Financial Officer. So I oversee the financials. I also oversee IT, so the folks who set up this room. And I am in charge of the apartment turnover team. And I'm in charge of the apartment turnover team. So when someone vacates and we have to renovate the apartment, I'm also in charge of that team. I have been with the Loomis community since 2017. I started as the controller. And then in 2020, my boss, Marge, who is now the CEO, was promoted to CEO, and I was promoted to CFO. So we both had trial by fire starting in 2020. I'd be happy to answer any questions. If they don't get answered during the actual session, I'll stick around afterwards so you can ask me one-on-one if that is a more comfortable way for you to ask questions. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Benjamin Coyle. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Bacon Wilson. I practice in elder law and estate planning, and I can answer any questions that you may have relative to that, as well as anything with regard to the presentation today.
I'm Betsy Howlett. I'm a resident here. This is almost my fourth year, and so I can speak from the inside what it's like, and I love it. Wouldn't be anywhere else. So that's about it for right now.
All right, so we're going to start off. Everyone doesn't like us today. I'm telling you, sometimes the speakers get picky.
I'll talk to the IT team after this.
So we're going to start off by talking about entrance fees. Can everyone hear me? I have a loud booming voice. Everyone hear me pretty good? All right, I'm going to turn this thing off. We'll give it to our presenters if they need it. So we're going to start off talking about entrance fees. It's that lovely little cloud that hangs over whenever you're moving into a senior living community. And the first question is, what is an entrance fee?
So I'll take that one. So the entrance fee is the fee that you pay upon moving in. So there are currently two different kinds of contracts that we offer here at Applewood. We have an 80% refundable contract and a declining contract. And the difference between those two is the refundability of that entrance fee. So feel free to raise hands and interrupt whenever you would like. So we'll start with the 80% entrance fee. So the 80% entrance fee, every month that you live in the community, your entrance fee gets amortized by 1%. So after 20 months, that 20% of your entrance fee has been earned by the Loomis communities, by Applewood. So after 20 months, you receive your, when you vacate your apartment or move out somewhere else, you receive 80% of that initial entrance fee back. And the declining works in a similar fashion, except for it declines all the way down to 0. So if you moved in and after 10 months, you move somewhere else, you'll get 90% of your refund back. If you're here for 50 months, you'll get 50% of your refund back. So the big question on everyone's mind is, why do we have entrance fees? You pay a monthly amount to come in to live here. Why do you have an entrance fee? So the funds that we receive for the entrance fee, we use for different purposes than we do the monthly service fee. The entrance fee is used primarily to fund capital improvements and to pay out entrance fees, to pay out the entrance fee that is owed to the person that the apartment that you're occupying. So the entrance fee is primarily used for capital improvements, the upkeep, it funds the apartment renovations, and then the monthly service fee, which is the amount that you pay every month, funds the operational side of things. So the maintenance of the grass, the salaries of the folks who work here, the food costs, things like that. So that's the difference between the entrance fee, or what we use the entrance fee funds versus the monthly service fee funds. Does anyone have any questions on entrance fees? Yes?
Is that somewhere in this packet in writing?
Yes. The entrance fees are listed in this packet that you have, and you'll notice there's two different amounts. So the declining entrance fee is less than the 80% refundable because we earn, the Loomis Communities potentially has to give less back to you. So it's an incentive, I guess, to choose that option. Yes?
The refundable fee, is that the same if you live here a year or 5 years?
After the 20-month period, it is the same in total. The refund is issued in two different pieces. So there's an initial refund for the 80% contract. There's an initial refund that is issued the month after you leave. And then there's a final refund upon reoccupancy of the apartment. So the difference, the amount that's in each one of those refunds changes depending on how long you've been here. So it changes by 1% every month that you are living in the community. So after 100 months, which is about 8.25 years, after 8.25 years, that initial refund, all of that amount that is refunded to you shifts to that final refund. So let's say you were here for 20 months, you get all of your refund initially. If you're here for 50 months, that's a little bit longer, so more has shifted from the initial refund to the final refund. And then at 100 months, there is no initial refund and you get it all upon reoccupancy of that apartment. And now I know anticipating the next question, how long does it take to reoccupy an apartment? Typically, Christine is our marketing manager over here. We have very short time periods in between when an apartment is vacated and when it is reoccupied. Because she has done great work getting our wait list to, what is it, 122? 132. So there are 132 folks who are waiting to move in here. So we don't waste any time renovating and getting new folks in. So typically, the refunds don't take, the initial versus the final refund, there's not a lot of time between those two. But in total, it is the 80%, if that's the refund you've chosen. The declining refund is a little bit different. So if you choose the declining refund, you don't have to wait until reoccupancy. You get whatever refund you are owed the month after the apartment is vacated.
Oh, go ahead, yep.
Do you very often have residents here who transfer or move to one of the other Loomis properties?
That's a great question.
In the area, and is there any difference in the way the money is received?
So I'm just going to repeat that question in case everyone couldn't hear. And correct me if I'm wrong with the paraphrasing. She asked if folks who live in Applewood ever transfer to the other two of our communities. And if so, I'll answer that question first. They have transferred, but typically folks generally age in place in Applewood. But although Applewood only offers independent living, so if someone does require that assisted living level of care, we have assisted living in our other two communities. So at Loomis Village in South Hadley and at Loomis Lakeside at Reed's Landing in Springfield. So if you require that level of care, that is an opportunity for you, or you can age in place and have home care services come into your community. But yes, we do have folks who start in Applewood and go to Loomis Village or Loomis Lakeside. And I forget, what was the second part of your question?
If it affected the way the fees are handled?
So each community has different entrance fees because there are different apartments, and that monthly rate also changes. But they are structured similarly. Applewood has an 80% refundable contract, where Loomis Village and Loomis Lakeside have a 90% refundable contract. So that is a main difference between the two, but the calculation and the 1 month change, the amortization of that, functions the same between all three of the communities.
This may be a shot in the dark, but how often do the fees change?
Great question. So the fees change every year. That is typical of continuing care retirement communities or life plan communities. If you don't have, it's also actually an indication of a healthy community. Typically, if there is not an increase in fees, it is an indication that something is amiss in that community, that they're trying not to increase fees and they're having trouble with occupancy. So typically, year over year, a healthy retirement community has increases between 3 and 5% in that monthly service fee yearly.
So this next one is for Ben. How does an entrance fee protect my assets, and is there a better option for me when it comes to selecting an entrance fee?
So entrance fees are a way for you,
Josh?
Try just that speaker. This one is not like this today for some reason.
to have some stability and understanding of what benefit you will receive in the end. As was indicated, there are the manner in which they're calculated, they're amortized over a period of time, so that you have some guarantee as to what it is that you are going to receive and what the benefit is that you're ultimately going to be able to transfer and take with you, or to have as part of your estate plan. The financial stability of an assisted living facility is shown by the manner in which those the amortization is calculated and the manner in which those funds are held for your benefit. So honestly, it's one of the better aspects of this type of facility, is to have those fees where you can see exactly what they are. Entrance fee designation form. So at the time that you enter the facility, you have the ability to designate who would be the beneficiary of the balance that's due to you from the entrance fee. Oftentimes, as part of your estate plan, you may want to designate an individual, or if you have a trust set up, you can name the trust. What's really important specifically is to make sure that the appropriate documentation is filled out with the facility and with Loomis, because Loomis is going to look to their internal documents and isn't going to look to any extraneous documents that you may have as part of your estate plan. So it's really important that you make sure that if you make any changes, that you simply come to the office and you say, hey, I've made a change to my estate plan. My lawyer had said I needed to set up a trust because that was the best thing. Make sure that it's reflected on the records here, because that's what's going to be controlling for Loomis.
Any questions on, yes?
This is going back to before. So if you transition from here to Loomis, the entrance fee here, does it switch over to Loomis, or is it a separate entrance fee?
So the question was, if you start your stay at the Loomis Communities at Applewood and you transfer to perhaps assisted living at Loomis Lakeside or Loomis Village, what does that look like, entrance fee wise? So there is a much smaller entrance fee associated with our assisted living level of care. And typically what we do when someone moves, we fill out an internal move paperwork and we just issue you the refund, but we withhold the entrance fee for that assisted living unit. So let's say the amount owed you, your 80% of your refund back was $200,000. If the entrance fee for the assisted living community is $20,000, then we give you the difference in that when you move. So there is an entrance fee associated with that, but we give you the difference. We pay you the difference between those two refund amounts.
Yep.
If at entrance you do not have the total amount required for entrance, is it mortgageable? I mean, what other kinds of arrangements can be done?
Typically, people who move into communities like ours have an existing house or a mortgage or something like that, which I guess a mortgage goes with having a house. So we understand that you need to potentially sell your house to be able to move into one of our communities. So we offer a 0% interest bridge loan in circumstances where that is necessary, so that you have time to sell your house to get that entrance fee to then move in. So typically those are about 90 days and they're 0%. If after those 90 days you still haven't sold your house or whatever the case may be, there is an interest rate associated with that typically, but we work on a one-on-one basis.
So given that you're paying a monthly service fee, how is resident input taken into account with what is, obviously because the monthly service fee goes back into the community, how is the resident input when working with that?
Not quite clear.
So what kind of input do residents have for things happening in the community on a day-to-day basis?
Financially, you mean?
Across the board?
Across the board, well,
Programs.
Christine's always handy. And we go to her a lot. But there are also other people that we check in with, people who are active in the community and are very willing to help us along in those first few months when you're not quite sure what you can do and what you can't do. But it worked out very well.
Do you want to talk about some of the committees and the link to Lou and that communication?
Yeah, so we have many opportunities to serve here. And so if you're in the habit of being of service in your own community, you probably will find something here to do too. We have a Saturday morning program committee, which is presently occupying almost all my time. But it's a very exciting committee to be working on. And some of you probably hear our Saturday morning programs on Zoom, because we've been sending them out that way in the last couple of years. But there are other opportunities more local, in your own hallway, being a cluster leader, being part of they call it a cluster. So being active there is another way you're seeing some of the effect of what you put into the community and then what you continue to put in through your own choices.
And then, if you have, I'll talk about the budget process. Thank you. So additionally, in addition to being able to be parts of committees that have a straight, you can't, that have a straight line to Lou and other folks in management, the residents of all of our communities are actually involved in the budgeting process. So we send out, the budgeting process starts in May and ends in October, so we have a lot of input in between. Every May / June, we send out a survey to the residents, to the cluster leaders. And we ask them, what would you like to see operationally versus what do you think needs updating in the capital budget? So we take all of those survey results and I go over them. Well, I guess there's a resident finance panel. So all the information is gathered up by the resident finance panel, and then Lou and I meet with the resident finance panel and go over what has been suggested to make its way into the budget. So some of the things that have made their way into the budget from resident suggestions are increases in the programming for wellness, resident services. We made changes to things like that. And then some interesting things for the capital. I remember 2 or 3 years ago, we got a lot of results for a new ping pong table in the activities room. Okay, great. That's a relatively easy win. We'll check that one off. That'll make it into the budget. And then talking to the finance panel, they were really upset that made it in because we have a perfectly good ping pong table in an area where the residents who said they needed a ping pong table weren't aware of. So we have conversations, many conversations about what is needed, what is wanted, and we also meet with lots of the actual staff and board members. But there is resident input into both the operational and capital budgets of each of our communities.
So for Carly and for Ben, is it secure to trust my money to a senior living community?
So I'll go first and then you can go. So the question is it secure to trust your money in a retirement community like ours? And I would say yes, for a variety of different reasons. The Loomis communities, Applewood and Loomis Village, were actually one company, both of those communities. So we are financed by bond debt. And one of the things that is unique about being financed by bond debt is you need to be annually, the S&P folks come and evaluate our financials and ask a lot of questions and have a meeting with myself and Marge, the CEO, to talk about our plans for the future and what's going on in the community. So every year after we supply all the financials and have that meeting, they give us a bond rating. For those of you who aren't entirely sure what a bond rating looks like, there are different levels. There's investment grade bonds, which are the higher bonds, that's what you want, and then non-investment grade bonds. So we at the Loomis communities have investment grade bonds. We have a BBB with a stable outlook, which is really fantastic news. We were one of the first communities in Massachusetts to become bond rated. And additionally, our most recent bond rating meeting was in 2021, based on 2020 financials. It's coming around the corner. And in our industry, a lot of folks saw downgrades in their bond rating because of the impact on COVID. And we actually did not. Our rating stayed the same, and we actually borrowed additional funds to do some of those larger capital projects. So in addition to maintaining an investment grade bond rating, we were able to maintain that grading when lots of communities like ours saw a downgrade. And so yes, it is a secure investment, I would say. And there's S&P rates us, and we also are a member of CARF, which is the Commission of Accredited Rehabilitation Centers, or facilities, I mean. We're not really a rehabilitation center, but communities like ours are eligible for CARF accreditations. And so we are CARF accredited, which means we have to comply with a bunch of different compliance operationally, but there is a finance side to that as well. So on the finance side, all of the CARF accredited communities like ours have to submit their financials, and all of that information is taken and accumulated, and then trend analysis is given to all of the folks who participated in that. So we're given different ratios for communities like ours as benchmarks for here's what is typical in the industry. And for the 5 years that I've worked here, we have been above all of those tick marks. So we're, compared to other communities like ours, we're doing above average. And with that, I'm going to pass it to Ben.
And I'm going to give the typical lawyer response, and that is, it depends. And it depends on the financial stability of the entity that you're trusting your money with, because everybody's heard horror stories where the entrance fees are no longer available. That's why it's so important to have a good CFO and a good group behind you to make sure that you have an appropriate budget that reflects what the actual expenses are of a facility, and that doesn't overestimate what the revenue is going to be and underestimate what the expenses are, plus the capital improvements that ultimately need to be made. All of the bond ratings and all of the financial oversight and ratings that Loomis gets is extremely important for you, because it gives you the comfort level that you need to see that there are outside agencies that are looking at the finances of similar facilities and saying that this particular facility in this group is doing better than expected, and making sure that on an annual basis that they are making sure that the funds are being utilized in the correct manner, and that they're going to be there when you ultimately need them. So, again, it depends, but with this facility, I don't think you have any question whatsoever that it's a good investment.
Do any of you have any questions? Yes.
Yeah, I just want to get back to the entrance fee, and just to clarify something in my mind about this 80%. So, as an example, supposing you were to do the $250,000 80% entrance fee, 10% is $25,000, so $50,000 would be 20%, and then the remaining $200,000 remains there, and is the money of the person who that would be return fund if you were to leave 10 years after that.
The answer to your question is yes.
And during that 10 years, I think it doesn't earn interest.
It does earn interest, but we retain the interest.
You retain the okay, that's clarified. Thank you.
You mentioned about the first 20 months.
Mhm.
Could you give more detail about that? You have to stay here for at least 3.5 years?
No. So when we obviously hope you stay, but at any point during your stay, you can choose to leave. It's just after 20 months is when you get that 80% that you signed up for. If you leave before the 20 months is up, you actually get more than 80% of your refund. So it's just, that's the turning point where your refund is solidified, is after 20 months.
During COVID, what kind of data on life here can you give us? And does that have an impact on vacancies, moves?
So I'm going to paraphrase the question in case anyone didn't hear, and let me know if I'm paraphrasing correctly. He asked what the impact was on occupancy when COVID was at its height, and did that impact the entrance fees at all. We actually maintained, thanks to Christine's really hard work and that long wait list that we do have, we maintained above 95% occupancy during the entire past few years. The occupancy to be considered full occupancy in a retirement community like ours, you have to have 90% occupancy. That's considered full. And because of Christine's hard work and the work of everyone at Applewood, we hover right around 95%. It's actually a little bit higher right now, but we were fortunate in that it did not impact our occupancy here at Applewood.
How many people do live here? And
There-
then,
sorry.
how large is the staff? And what about recruiting right now? Do you have open positions?
All right.
Is it difficult?
So I'm gonna start right in a row. So we have 103 apartments here currently. We have about 121 residents currently. We have 85 staff dedicated to Applewood. I'm not sure about the open positions right now, but I don't think we have a whole host of them, otherwise I would be aware of it.
Anybody, any other questions at all?
I'm just curious, you have a waiting list, is there an average that it takes for one to able to come here?
What's the average weight?
Depends on style of apartment, but any 2-bedroom, 2-bath is about 5 years out, my guesstimate.
Wow.
We only have about 10 turnovers a year currently, so my guess is 5 years or more, depending on style. But again, a guesstimate. For 1-bedroom, that's probably closer to 2.5 years.
Thank you very much.
For Ben, obviously there's paperwork that goes along moving into a community. How can an attorney help me going through all of that paperwork and making sure it's correct?
Absolutely. Any time that you come to a facility, you're going to have an agreement. And that agreement, an admission agreement, is typically reviewed by an attorney and explained to you so that you can understand exactly what it is that you're signing. while the representatives of Loomis will explain it to you as well. It's sometimes best to have an independent review. People who are explaining it to you from here work here, so I know people are always a little gun shy as to whether or not they're telling you the ins and outs of it and explaining everything to you. So typically we'll review it with you, and as part of that process we will make sure that the designation for the entry fee is also completed in accordance with the rules, because that is extremely important as well.
Any questions at all for our panelists that haven't been asked already? Again, this is a great time to have our Chief Financial Officer, the elder care attorney, and a resident all in one spot here, and I'm certain that Betsy can also give you the inside scoop that you really want to know. Yes?
I know just from general information that Applewood did well during high COVID. So I guess I'd like a little description of what they did and how it worked out.
All right. So I guess, do you mean financially or?
Socially.
Socially, all right. Well, we followed the CDC guidelines as much as we could. We are an independent living community, but because we are one community, the Loomis Communities is one community. So we have EOEA, the Executive Office of Elder Affairs, that oversees some of our assisted living apartments. So they had some rules, and then we also have DPH that oversees the regulations in the nursing center that we have at Loomis Lakeside. So because Applewood technically is not under EOEA, but we treat all of our communities the same. So we adapted all of the EOEA rules at Applewood. So there were times where masks were mandated, we took temperatures on the way in, we said you can't have guests in the dining room, we had meals delivered, there were rules about whether or not you could come to the dining room based on vaccination status, although we had, it was 100% vaccination status at Applewood, so that wasn't an issue. The Executive Office of Elder Affairs dictated, or I guess actually that was incorrect, DPH dictated that if you work in a community like ours, the staff has to be vaccinated. So all of the staff were vaccinated or got an exemption, medical or religious. We limited the number of folks who could come to events. We transitioned a lot of programming to Zoom. We have an IT person who's dedicated to just helping the residents, not necessarily doing behind the scenes work for staff. And he was available for the residents to help them with Zoom and creating accounts. We created our own Applewood account that residents could use for their committees or for one-on-one meetings with families if it was available. Do you want to, you should speak to your experience with that, actually.
In terms of Zoom, that's just been a very exciting time for us on the Saturday morning program, because our programs would have been canceled when we couldn't meet in the meeting room at all. But with Zoom, we've continued to meet, and people have been able to participate and question and answer, and it's just been a wonderful opportunity for us all. So it wasn't a big hardship to move into Zoom, and now we don't know whether we're going to do Zoom or in person, and we're leaving it up to the speakers to say, which would you rather? We can do both. So that's where we are today.
It looks to me under the notes that there's a meal plan, but it looks like it's an additional cost.
The meal plan includes 1 meal per day, and that's included in the monthly service fee. We do offer a 20-meal plan, and if you opt for that program, you actually get a credit on your bill because the monthly service fee includes 1 meal per day. So it is not an extra fee. We do charge for guest meals, or if you decide you want to have 2 meals in one day, then that is extra. But 1 meal per day is covered under your monthly service fee.
That's a good rule.
So if you name on a waiting list, what financial legal obligation do you have?
If you want to join the wait list, there is a wait list agreement that does require a deposit. So the deposit is $2,500. And when you enter into a community like ours, there's, once you actually are making the move into the community, not just onto the wait list, there's a financial check and a health check. So if you do not pass either of those, you get all of your waitlist deposit back. If you just decide you don't want to move into a community like ours anymore, then we do retain $200 of that waitlist deposit. So you get $2,300 back if you just choose to remove your name from the waitlist.
One other question is, you said there's different waiting times for different apartments and stuff.
Yes.
Do you change what you're looking for while you're on the waiting list? You say, I want a 1-bedroom instead of a 2-bedroom and vice versa?
Absolutely, yes. So his question was, what if you join the waiting list and you're potentially are on a style of apartment that has about 5 years waiting list, and you decide, you know what, I really want to move in now, I'll take an apartment that has a shorter waiting time. Yes, you can make that change. And you can move up from within in that wait list.
So internal wait is shorter than external wait.
So we have sometimes, let's say you want a Spencer type apartment, which is one of the bigger apartments. You could potentially move into a studio apartment that is open, and then you're at the top of the list because you already live here. So that is a sneaky way to bump yourself up on the wait list.
How about overnight guests? Is that allowed?
In your own apartment, absolutely. We also have guest rooms that are available. I think it's, what is it? There is a fee associated with that stay, and it's limited to 2-week stays. But yes, we have 2 guest rooms, and you can have, it's your home. You can have people over in your own home.
That's a good little segue to our final point today, and that's the monthly service fee. So what is included in the monthly service fee, and is it true that I don't have to worry about paying property taxes anymore?
So in the packet that you received, there is a sheet called Services and Amenities. And it says what is included in the monthly service fee. So yes, property taxes are included. I'll read some of the items off the list. The food, 30 meals a day, 30 meals a month, 1 meal a day is included. Housekeeping at Applewood, housekeeping comes once a week, so they'll do the towels and the linens in your apartment, if you so choose. The maintenance of the buildings and grounds, so we have a maintenance staff here. They make sure the boiler's working, things like that. Trash removal and recycling is included in your monthly service fee, as well as cable and internet. We also have an emergency call system that when you move in, you're signed up for that immediately. So that is part of the monthly service fee, covers that cost, as well as some transportation costs and shopping trips. And the property taxes are included. The programming that she spoke about a little bit earlier, I would say 98% of our programs are no cost. We do have some, if there's events, you can sign up to attend an event that may have a cost associated with it, if there's a ticket or something like that. And additionally, if you move into Applewood, you do get 7 free days in our nursing center. So if you happen to have a fall and you need some nursing center care, we go through the insurance first, but if your insurance runs out or won't cover it, you get 7 free days in the nursing center, and you have priority. So if our nursing center is full for some reason, then we will pay for you to go to whatever nursing center for 7 days, because it is part of your contract that will cover that cost.
The paper says that telephone, cable TV, and internet are not covered, but I think you just said that it's on the line.
The upgraded, the basic cable is included. If you want like HBO Max or if you want something upgraded, then it is not included.
I don't want to monopolize it, but is there a bus van thing that takes you around town if you want to?
Yes, we have a bus and a car. And in this packet, there are potentially fees associated with that, depending on how far the bus or car has to go. But yes, there's a transportation available.
So if you want to go to a doctor's appointment, you could get transportation for that? And also, on transportation, I see there's a garage, you can get a garage, what if you don't, what do you want to park something, but you don't want a garage?
If you don't want a garage, you don't have to have a garage.
There's no parking.
Yeah, you can park, there's designated spots. There's designated spots.
No, not designated, but there's enough
Designated
parking,
area.
so couples very often can have 2 spots. And people park near their apartments, and you get fobs to go in and out the doors near where you live. You don't have to use this main door if you live at that other end of the building.
Any other questions at all for our panelists? Yes.
Just a clarification with regard to, you know, you have a house, you have home insurance, right? And catastrophic events and fires or such things are covered by some insurance.
Absolutely. Yes, we have every insurance you could imagine.
If you want to pay for a daily newspaper, is it delivered to your door, or do you come down to like a mail room to pick it up?
There's a mail area right over here on the right, so it gets delivered there.
$20 meals a month, is that lunch, is that dinner, does it matter?
Usually a combo, right?
It's primarily,
It's up to the resident. Resident can choose if they want to have 20 lunches and 10 dinners, or however, whatever combination that is.
Thank you.
They can
they
adjust.
they typically choose dinner because it's more expensive.
I was interested in the fitness center. Is there an additional fee for using the fitness center?
The question was, is there an additional fee for using the fitness center? And no, the fitness room is included.
I assume that was closed for some length of time for the COVID conditions.
There was, I believe, it wasn't ever closed, but there was a sign-up process.
There was, right, everybody had to sign up for certain intervals, and, you know, as long as we were following social distancing, folks were being masked while they were using it, we did, you know, keep that, and everybody signed up for it, so that flow that folks wanted to use it continued to move forward.
And that allowed us to be able to clean the room in between.
Is there a swimming pool?
There's a swimming pool at Loomis Village, and the transportation in between the communities, you can hop on the bus or use the car, and that is free of charge.
You can use the pool there too.
Correct.
I was going to ask about the attorney's fees, if you do decide, is the attorney's fees included in your original sign-in?
That would be separate. If you engaged a lawyer, that would be a separate cost. That would be personal.
Okay, so there's extra cost for an attorney for Loomis?
No. So I guess I'm going to clarify one thing. So the entrance fee designation form that Ben was referring to before, that is a form that you fill out free of charge. If you want a lawyer to review your documents, your residency and care agreement, your entrance fee refund designation, all that stuff, that would be, Loomis is not involved in that process. You would have to go out, find a lawyer that you're comfortable with, and that cost would be, you would be responsible for that cost.
But the attorney that's involved with you
Yes.
is also, is included in the fee?
Yes, yes. We have a company lawyer that we do not charge residents for. Yes.
There's a question about lunch. So how many people typically eat lunch? What kind of lunch is provided, or is it buffet, or do many people eat lunch?
No.
Not as many.
Not many people.
More staff eat lunch than residents. But it is not a buffet either. There's a menu and you can pick off the menu.
Okay, because the staff is going to be eating lunch every day. Okay, that makes sense.
They usually grab and go, the staff. They're not hanging out.
Any others? All right. Well, thank you to our panelists for today for answering some questions. They'll be sticking around for a little while as well, so if you have questions individually, feel free to come on up and ask them.
Christine if anyone would like to see what Applewood looks like besides the dining room that you're in right now. Christine and I will be offering some chances to go see the campus here. But again, feel free to come up, talk to our panelists individually, ask them questions, grab some more food and drink. And thank you all for the insightful questions tonight.